Okay, so welcome back, those of you in the room and those of you on Zoom. This is day 3, Thursday, at Bryant Park B. We have Greg DeaKyne with BMC Software. He's going to be presenting on gaining complete visibility across complex IT environments. Now, Greg, tell us a little bit about what your role is while you go. I'm going to stop sharing so you can share.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. My name's Greg, and I am the product manager for
Share.
I need to share. Okay.
Yeah, no worries.
So as I was saying, I'm the product manager for Discovery. I'll share my contact information after. We recently started using Zoom, so I think I know how to use it.
It's a green one.
There we go.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So similar to when Darius was sharing, we have our legal notice here. I won't spend a lot of time on a lot of features, but there are a few in there that I'm excited to share with you guys about the direction we're heading. So I just need to put the legal notice up there. So why Discovery? I mean, there's so many different reasons, but the main thing is you really need to understand what's in your environment. And Discovery kind of goes beyond just building that inventory. We're really focused on building out relationships and dependencies across all the various IT assets that are running an environment. And so these are typical things that customers come to us with is a lot of our customers are migrating workloads to the cloud. They're certainly not moving all of their workloads, and the majority of them are moving to various cloud providers, not just a single. So the multi-cloud strategy really is relevant across our customer base. Security teams are more and more reliant on the discovery data as well. So as new threats come out, you need to know at that moment, where are you exposed and how dynamic is that inventory data that you have? And Discovery helps you be, very, very dynamic in what you're discovering.
That's mine. Sorry.
No problem. So Discovery's been around for 16, 17 years. We deliver it via a virtual appliance, and about 3 years ago, we launched our SaaS offering. So a lot of our new business is taking on the SaaS instance of Discovery. It is feature parity to our on-prem appliance. It's actually the same code base. It's just that they build it into containers for one deployment in SaaS, and then the virtual appliance that customers can download if they're running it on their own environment. So just touching a little bit more on some of the use cases of just Discovery on its own, and then I'll talk about how Discovery fits into the overall Helix platform after that. So a lot of our customers will maybe only use Discovery for 1 or 2 of these use cases. And then we work with them to share what other customers are doing so they can start to expand their usage of Discovery. Asset management is a very common one. It's what you guys as Remedy see, what gets over to the CMDB. So being able to have those CIs eventually in Remedy, a lot of that comes from customers using Discovery to discover all those assets and then synchronize to the CMDB for purposes such as Remedy ITSM. Another area that's really helpful is around mergers and acquisitions. So, some of our customers that are constantly bringing on, whether it's a new acquisition or just bringing on different areas, like a hospital, maybe bringing on different hospitals in different regions, they're able to quickly deploy a portion of Discovery that we call Outposts, that I'll talk about it a little bit later, so they can quickly discover everything in these new environments and start off having that up-to-date inventory and understanding what's in those new environments as they bring them online. Software license management is another interesting one where we actually partner with Snow Software. Some other customers also use Flexera. And so they have a wide range of patterns and understanding of software licenses. We obviously discover a lot of different running software. So the combination of both systems really helps to ensure you have the most up-to-date and accurate software within your license management suite. So as I said, Discovery's been around for 16, 17 years. It's really one of the large values of using BMC Helix Discovery is the wealth of the patterns that we have. Those numbers are probably outdated right now, but on a monthly basis, we're setting out new, what we call technology knowledge updates, TKU, and we release that on a monthly basis. And it's always full of new things that we're able to discover. So as customers are seeing things that are running in their environment that we don't have a pattern for, we have a pretty good process to take that into our R&D team and hopefully turn around very quickly in the next month or two, more updates that TKU that then all customers get to take advantage of as we build up those patterns. You can also build your own patterns. So we have a lot of customers that are able to use our pattern library and create their own patterns, or they can augment our patterns to maybe fit the uniqueness of their environment. So really a lot of flexibility within the overall platform when it comes to discovering the wealth of what's running in your environment. The storage, that second line around storage. So we also have a separate license add-on called BMC Discovery for storage. And this is not only helpful to understand what storage systems you have in your environment, whether it's a NAS system or an actual large storage environment, but we're building the relationships. So, coming from my background of IT operations, I'd always pick on the storage or network teams because they'd come with change, and you'd ask, well, what applications are impacted by your change to this random router? And they have no idea. So then they have to go and talk to the application owner and get all these people together. Well, Discovery will help answer that question for you. So it's not only identifying all the makeup of those specific storage or network devices, but it's showing the relationships of which systems are relying on those devices. The picture on the right there is our Start Anywhere application mapping. So I'm going to talk a little bit later about where BMC is, the path towards one way of modeling services or applications. But in Discovery itself, we've always been modeling applications, and then customers would sync those to the CMDB and then would model maybe a service. Now we have the ability to model a service as well as an application within Discovery, and the starting our application mapping starts with effectively what's a visualization of all the relationships. So if you start with, and you can't read much of what's on that screen, it's pretty small, but if you knew, for example, you wanted to model an application and the only thing you knew was the database, or you knew that it was Tomcat running on a specific server. So as you search for that and visualize it, it's going to automatically pull in all the different relationships. So you can start right there to model an application. You can draw circles around things and remove it. It's really easy to use from an interface perspective, and it's a quick way to get up and running on building application and service models. All those relationships are discovered at the time of a discovery. It's not a separate application. It's not a separate process. Once you do a discovery of your environment, you have now pulled in not only the actual CIs, but all the relationships as well. And then we do have a REST API for discovery. A lot of customers are using that for event-driven based discovery. So if they're deploying a new version of their application, part of their build process might kick off a discovery run of what they just deployed. Excuse me. Or if you're spinning up a new EC2 instance in AWS, you could have that process, or we actually have some example code of where you can have a script that runs within AWS. Anytime it sees an EC2 instance startup, it triggers some code to go to the REST API discovery and discover what was just spun up in your AWS environment. So a lot of flexibility there to do other things as well besides just running discovery, but really helpful to be able to drive a lot of automation with that. So how does it work? When we developed the SaaS offering 3+ years ago, there's no way that a customer is going to let our AWS environment directly scan everything within your environment. So we have this concept of an outpost. It's a simple installation that goes on your Windows server. So you deploy an outpost. You could deploy multiple outposts that can all talk to the SaaS service. And that's typically happening where customers have network segmentation where not one outpost can see everything. Or for load purposes, you might need to eventually grow beyond that single outpost as well. So that outpost is there to be the thing that you can put inside your network. It's where all of your credentials are stored. So Discovery doesn't work unless it can have credentials to discover certain things. So the outpost is actually where the credential vault is. So BMC never has your credentials to all your environments within our SaaS instance. It's on the outpost. And the outpost can also, we have 5 vault providers that we do integration with. So like Thycotic, Centrify, really, I think we hit kind of the upper quadrant of the magic quadrant when it comes to password access managers. And then as the outpost is there, it has the credentials, it has network access. All it's doing is it's registered back to our BMC service. So it's a one-way port 443 connectivity to the SaaS environment. And it's just waiting there until there's work to be done. And so within the SaaS environment, as you're setting up all your different discovery runs, it'll put it in a queue, and any registered outpost that is capable of doing what is in the queue, it'll grab that work. It'll run everything locally at the outpost to discover all the different IP endpoints or cloud providers. And then as it has data, it's just simply sending it back to the SaaS environment, which is where a lot of the brains of the operation are running. And so as it's going out and discovering things, as I said before, not only are we discovering all the different components from cloud to mainframe to the storage, the network, the running software, it's building those relationships. And so all those dotted lines in between those components is the importance of having a discovery solution. And then as you have all those relationships, as I showed earlier with the start anywhere application mapping, you can start to model your services, which are more important to what your customers know they're getting as an IT service. They don't necessarily care that it has 150 different CIs that all connect together. And then in the end, after you have all that data in the Discovery data store, we have the ability to publish to the CMDB. And that could be the BMC CMDB. And we actually have, as of last year, we also synchronized to the ServiceNow CMDB as well. Just an example of some of the things that we're delivering on those monthly technology knowledge updates that I mentioned before. As you can see, it kind of spans some new cloud services. So as new cloud services are being adopted by our customers, we'll start to add support, different storage, different network, different software. Our R&D team is actually made up of 2 separate, they're not separate, but it's separate groups. They're all under one engineering team, but they're dedicated. The second team is dedicated to just building all the patterns needed in order to discover new things. And they're broken up based on their area of expertise. So there's an actual network team, there's a storage team, there's a cloud team. And so it's nice to be able to work with a team like that, because we're always going to have a team that's focused on delivering new content. And then there's the core team that's focused on developing new features and basic core functionality of the product. And for our SaaS customers, we automatically deploy these knowledge updates on that monthly basis. So the first Wednesday of every month, we make the TKU available for download for our on-premise customers, and we deploy the TKUs automatically to our customers' dev environment, and a week later to their production environment. And those outposts, when it's registered to a service and sees a new update, whenever the outpost is in a lull, it's not doing any active discovery, it'll self-update itself as well.
So Greg, I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
So for some customers who may have some custom TPL to take into account that maybe there's not a TKU available for, right? In Bob's case, he had some custom TPL that was being overwritten by a TKU, which we didn't know until we took a look at it, right? But that's because he's an on-prem customer, and we took a look at it, and he down. Now, if you're a SaaS customer and this is automatically pushed to you, how do you know to go and take a look, or to make sure that your if a custom TPL is not being overwritten by this TKU?
It's a good question. It certainly comes up, and I'm not a TPL code developer, so I won't be able to hit the actual details, but I've been on calls with our engineering team where they've kind of explained to services groups or other groups that there is methods of having your custom TPL that will never be overwritten by new code coming in. So if you have your own custom Apache one, there's a way to, I don't know what the right word is, and I can certainly look it up, but and pass that information along. But I've been told that there is methods there to ensure that we're not overriding something that you have custom.
So there may be a flag or something, or a variable you could set that say,
Yeah.
don't overwrite me,
Yeah.
you know, let me know. And maybe, and so what we found is when we look in our log, maybe that's where you find, you look in the log
Yeah.
and you say, hey, you know, we've got something that's been, okay,
Right.
thank you.
So a lot of that was core discovery on its own. This is just a different picture of some of what Darius was talking about a couple of days ago with this whole Helix platform. So when he was showing all the different data stores, he did make the call out that when we were looking for, the architects and the group that, really started down the journey of building this Helix platform, they knew we needed a data store where we're going to store all the CIs and relationships. And so Discovery was chosen as that one because it has a proven, very high performing data store that it's used. And so when we launch things like BMC Helix Operations Management, the AIOps platform, continuous optimization is coming, those are using the Discovery data store as its data store. So as you deploy a new patrol agent for operations management, and which then will trigger creating a CI in your data store, it's actually created in Discovery. So there was a lot of work done on the Discovery team to enable these other solutions, so that, which in the end created a lot of back-end APIs that those solutions are using, but also core Discovery customers can take advantage of as well. On the left, there's the intelligent integrations, and I'll get to more details on that in a minute. That would be the section that Darius was talking about. He likes to say ingestion, it's actually intelligent integration, but in the end, this is just another method to populate your Discovery data store. And the whole goal of having this single data store that these applications are now referencing directly versus not waiting for a synchronization to a CMDB and then grabbing the data for its own data store. With the intelligent integrations and the way we're using Discovery as the data store, these solutions now can take advantage of an actual very dynamic service model. And so as customers are deploying things like to a containerized environment where it's constantly changing, and I'll show you kind of a picture here in a little bit, as those changes are happening and you're constantly feeding that new information in from these intelligent integrations, your service model can start to change so that if there is an incident or a change coming up, everyone's looking at the most accurate, up-to-date, latest service model. And so service management is on there as part of the Helix platform. It's taking advantage of things like Helix dashboards. It's, some of the single sign-on is all the same on the Helix platform. And then, over time, there will be more usage of the service management suite using the Discovery data store directly, where today it still relies on the CMDB. So the dynamic service model, what that looks like in the situation here of SharePoint having a critical alert come through. What you're seeing at the bottom screen is the operations management solution having a direct connection to Discovery's data store. So that at the bottom is the most up-to-date service model. Now, if there was a connection, maybe Dynatrace is being used as a solution within the SharePoint system, and Dynatrace is seeing that there's new containers being spun up or new servers that have these relationships, it can automatically start to push that data into the data store so that when this alert comes up, you see the most up-to-date service model. And so how are we going about this intelligent integration? So we did start at the very beginning, building something on our own to have all those intelligent integrations to the various different solutions like Dynatrace, SolarWinds, different areas where we know there's good data out there that we want to put into our Discovery data store. But just a few months ago, made the decision to acquire a company called Streamweaver. And we're just getting started with the Streamweaver team. They're actually building their solution into the Helix platform to be that intelligent integration that I showed earlier. And they already have a vast library of different integrations. You can see within the screenshot there, things like AppDynamics, SolarWinds, New Relic. And so they're building this into the Helix platform. And so they're going out and getting all that data and then working with our team to figure out how it fits into the discovery data model for really to drive a lot of the AIOps capabilities, but also as a discovery customer, the use of Streamweaver, if you're a SaaS discovery customer, you will have the ability to use Streamweaver. So if you discover, say, a bunch of hosts through the Streamweaver integration, it'll use your discovery host licenses, but you'll have the capabilities there to augment your current discovery capabilities with this new intelligent integrations backed by Streamweaver technology. So really looking forward to seeing some of those come online, and I believe the first handful of them will be available on the Helix platform in our 22.1 release, which will be end of January. Just a few screenshots of how it's kind of going through of the AIOp screen, showing all the different services that you've modeled and are monitoring. It helps with enhancing our ability for probable cause analysis. And in the end, the goal is to have that service model that's based on some of those various different technologies. So if you're building a service model, not only based off of things that you're directly discovering, but information from New Relic, from Dynatrace, all those different integrations really helps to make sure you have not only a dynamic service model, but a very accurate model. So just talk a little bit about the last couple releases of Discovery. We've always had the capabilities as customers are deploying Kubernetes or OpenShift environments to discover those technologies. Up until recently, that required that we have host level access. So as you give an IP address to go and discover, and we gain access because you have SSH credentials, and then we start to list out all the running processes. We see things that look like Kubernetes. We have patterns that would go in and further run some Kubernetes type command lines to gain more knowledge of what's running on that Kubernetes cluster. When it came to OpenShift 4.0, and certainly as customers are moving these things to the cloud where you don't always have host level access, we needed a new approach. And so we have now a feature we call API providers. And so similar to like a new cloud discovery run, you can have a new API provider run. And so in the end, it comes down to setting up API provider credentials. And so for Kubernetes and OpenShift, it's what is the URL endpoint to your Kubernetes cluster, and typical things like token bearer, so you have authentication in order to gain access to that API. And so that was rolled out 2105, which was back in May, and starting to see customers really take advantage of this, especially customers that are using Kubernetes as a service in the public cloud providers. With our cloud discovery capabilities plus the API provider-based discovery, they're now able to get all that level of detail of all the relationships and what's the overall makeup of a certain Kubernetes cluster. We also back in I believe the May timeframe delivered PowerShell Discovery for Windows hosts. That was probably one of the top voted items in the community for quite some time. So customers were having to give more administrative access for the previous methodologies we used for Windows discovery. And now with PowerShell, they can get more prescriptive in how they set up permissions for all the different PowerShell commandlets that are needed to run when discovering. So it's really opened up discovery to be more security friendly in that aspect, as well as with PowerShell, you can directly discover from our discovery appliance, which is Linux based. It can actually do PowerShell discovery directly from that Linux server. So you no longer have to deploy a Windows proxy in order to do Windows discovery. So that was a nice addition to being able to deliver the PowerShell feature. This last feature that I want to talk about is when it comes to discovering your EC2 instances in AWS or your virtual machines in Microsoft, anytime you're discovering the IaaS, the those are, again, just virtual machines running in the cloud. And we can pull a lot of good information of what those virtual machines are just from the API-based cloud discovery. But in order to understand what's running on those servers, you have to be able to log onto the server. And so with the help of AWS, AWS's push is to really get, if you're going to deploy EC2 instances, they suggest you use the tooling within their AWS Systems Manager in order to manage and maintain that system. And with the Systems Manager, which is comes on by default, it's a client on most of their default images that they have for EC2. It also has an API for their session manager. And so what we're able to do with cloud discovery of AWS now is when you do a cloud discovery of AWS and it sees that you have any EC2 instances, if it has access and permission to the session manager, stuff word, API, it could also then, we drive our entire pattern library over that API. So instead of having to have SSH level access to the EC2 instances, you can now get the same level of detail back from just the API based. So it's a really powerful new feature for AWS. Of course, once we deliver it for AWS, everyone's asking, when are we getting it for Azure? When are we getting it for Google Cloud? And so we're currently working with both of those cloud providers right now, and Google Cloud is expected to release in the 22.1 release, which is coming up in January. And we're currently still working with Azure. We picked Google because they had a technical route to deliver this type of feature. Right now, Azure doesn't. It's a little more complicated with some of the remote command things that they have. So we're working with them to hopefully come up with a solution and then deliver on that after we can get to that technical solution after we release the Google Cloud one next month.
So I have a question for you, Greg. So for those of you who don't know me on the call, this is Phil Batista. I do a lot of DoD type integrations, right? With Los Alamos, we did deployment of Discovery. Had some challenges there, but for some of the DoD folks that are maybe running it only on the high side, or we call the zipper network, you mentioned a secured discovery. But if you're, say, for example, running a ZipperNet instance on-prem and you want to discover some cloud services, right? Yeah. And it's secured across that. How do you secure not only well, two questions. One is, I think we were using CyberArk at the time. You mentioned you've got 5 different vault vendors that you're integrated with. I'd like to know what those are. Number one. Number two, and this came up last night in a discussion with some other folks. How do you secure the information going back and forth? I mean, port 443, it's pretty common port, the cybersecurity tends to look for and will shut down depending on what's going on. So how do you provide a secure connection, not only of the password information with the vaults, but also the information from Discovery to come back from your outposts back to your appliance?
For the appliance, speaking of cloud, if you have network access, you can just run a simple appliance, and if it has access to everything, great. But more customers would deploy an outpost where it needs to be, and then at that point, it's the 443 and the different key encryption that handles the connectivity back to the appliance. So everything I was showing earlier about SaaS, you could do the same outposts to an appliance cluster on premise as well. It's an option there. Okay. What was the second question?
Well, how you handle the vault storage case study is that at Los Alamos, we showed them, we said, hey, look at this discovery tool, integrates directly with CMDB, it's a known source. We've got, extensive catalogs. Look at this. We took a look and, we can do our credentialed and uncredentialed scans, look at all the information we pulled back. They said, that's great. You're not going to get access to our networks. We said, we can put it in CyberArk. We don't need them. They said, that's fine. We're still not going to give you access. So that's another challenge, by the way. And it sounds like you've answered the question because you have 5 different vendors for the vault capabilities. Yeah. However, there, and this is probably more of a process question than a technology question. But I've got customers that say, that's great that you say you can do this, but we're not going to let you, and they don't, and they come up with the reasons why. Once you answer that reason, they say, well, sure, you can put it in the vault, but how do we know that vault, or whatever reasons? Do you get those kinds of questions to your product team about,
Sure.
why should I let you discover my networks?
Yeah, no, I think showing them in the end what they get is always a good start. But yeah, we have customers that, we work with a lot of large financial customers, and going, with them on the technical details, I mean, down to drawing out all the different areas where you could be exposed based on using a tool like this. And you get into a lot of those deep conversations. We had a pharmaceutical company that has gone online with our SaaS offering, and we worked with them a lot, where they were really trying to get full discovery, but they did not want to have administrative access to certain things. So like doing database discovery, like, you can't do, it only works because we have certain levels of access, but they were able to kind of work with us, and we worked with them to help. I think we even fine-tuned a couple patterns. And so I think it just takes more of those conversations where, maybe what worked 10 years ago with more levels of access, certainly as customers are moving their workloads to the cloud, security is becoming a tighter focus. And so, yeah, I think obviously coming into an organization, it's like, no, you're not getting access to anything. That's a little difficult. But, when there's a little bit of room there to work with, I think we are continually evolving how we interact with certain systems, because we're very security focused, as it comes up quite often.
Very good. Thank you, Greg.
And I think the 5 integrations, so Thycotic, Centrify, CyberArk, just added one. I'll get the list for you.
Very good. Thank you so much.
So yeah, when it comes to cloud support, these are the cloud providers that we support today. We recently added Alibaba Cloud and IBM Cloud over the last several months. And the great thing about adding a new cloud provider is we're able to do that in the monthly TKU release. So it's not taking a major or minor version of the product update to take advantage of a new cloud provider. We're able to ship that with that monthly update. So now you have the ability to discover across those 6 cloud providers. Certainly, we have more coverage with AWS. That's where more of our customers are and where they're deploying more services. But there's maybe individually 70 different cloud services with AWS that we support. So as customers are coming online and taking advantage of new cloud services, we're able to offer support in the knowledge updates, as well as working directly with them. So when AWS delivered their Outpost, they have an AWS, it's called AWS Outpost, which basically is AWS in a box. They send you a rack, it runs in your data center, and you have certain cloud services that you can deploy in your own data center. And so we worked with AWS directly, got access to their lab, and we're able to add that support proactively as well. So good relationship with those cloud providers, and continue to evolve our multi-cloud support as one of our main strategies is to continue to add more and more features and things around cloud. It's really a big push for us right now, especially with a lot of large customers pushing us to do more in that space as well. So modeling services, I showed you earlier what you can do in Discovery. I know in Scene customers I talk to, they do some modeling in Scene2B. We have some customers that do it even elsewhere. There was, in the old True Site, there was modeling services there. So we're on a journey. It's not a short journey. It's a little longer journey, but what we're evolving to is having that one way of modeling services within the Helix platform. And we're starting with a new, easier to use methodology for building services. And so it's a prototype picture there, but within it, you can do a simple, a more simple service model where here are the 5 CIs that are part of this service model. I'm going to create it, and it's there. You could have multi-tiers, so services of services. But the more exciting part is more around this dynamic blueprint-driven service modeling. So say you have if you're using a lot of tags, whether it's in your on-premise environment like VMware, or in the cloud, you're using a lot of tags, you can build a dynamic element to your service model that is based off of something like a tag or a Kubernetes namespace. And once you set that, it's going to show all the different CIs that are part of that tag today. But the model becomes more dynamic as you discover more things, or if you go and do another cloud discovery run and there's, oh, here's a new thing in the cloud that also has that same tag, it automatically gets added to that service model without you having to go in and manage and maintain that, because it's that dynamic component to it. And so we're going to release this first iteration of this new method of building service models for our AIOps platform. But a lot of the work is behind the scenes, discovery API endpoints. So it's in the discovery code base. And so the plan is after that to deliver this new methodology within discovery itself as well. And then over time, as we have start anywhere application modeling within discovery, we actually have a couple other methods, the CAM method, some customers just write their own TIPL. The plan is, I think this will more take the place of customers that are doing CAM-based modeling and TIPL-based modeling. And so over time, start to see some convergence of modeling things in one place. So really excited about this, and for the discovery customers, it's not going to be in January like it is for AIOps customers, but it will be shortly after that. Last thing I want to talk about. So, I work directly with our discovery R&D teams as the product manager. We actually have within our office of the CTO a group, effectively the innovation lab. And it's not just a cool location for people to go and work on stuff, but then they have to go back to their day job to go work on their main product. This is actually a team that their sole focus is working on some new innovative type ideas. And so they have their own product managers, their own developers. And so one of the problems, the things that we're trying to solve for customers is, hey, I'm running this new application, it's all container based. How do I know what the relationships and software running on those containers? So as I said earlier, a lot of our discovery is because we have host level access where you're not logging in, you're not SSHing to a running container. And so the team has started to work with this packet filter technology that's part of the Linux kernel. And they're, hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll start to have some prototyping and actually something real that we're able to see, but it's going to leverage this packet filter to start to discover not only software running on those containers, because a lot of our customers use discovery for a lot of their software license and usage, but understanding the communication paths between other containers. And so right now it's a little bit of a gap to most discovery solutions. And so really excited to see something come out of the innovation labs and then work its way into our discovery team to go from the R&D folks in innovation labs to our discovery team and making it an actual feature. So looking forward to seeing more on this as it comes to life in the next few months. And I think that's all I had today.
So very good. Thank you.
So Greg, I have a question for you. This is Bob Ellington. In my contract that we're doing with NASA, we've been running Discovery now for almost 9 years on our network. Custom TIPL that he was talking about, we originally wrote it way back to find wireless access points off of wireless controllers, as well as IP phones, VoIP phones off of VoIP controllers. A good ways, fairly recent, y'all added new capability that we are getting the WAPs automatically from your code. I was able to turn that custom TIPL off. Thrilled to death. I need the same to happen in the VoIP arena, and these are Cisco VoIP controllers.
Okay.
We get IP phones, we get soft phones, which are really just the software is running on your computer and it's connected, and ATAs, which is the you plug this ATA into your network port, and you can get the more traditional phone line connectors so that they can plug up. things on it for that. When the wireless part came out, we were talking to y'all about it. We were told, hey, we're working on it. We're going to get there. Well, it's been about 3 years now. So I'm wondering where we are on that.
I don't know, but I'll check that because that probably started. I'll be 3 years in March, so that might have been conversations you had with someone else.
It was pre, yes. But point being that I'm not sure it was on your roadmap. That's not a thing that we can go out there and get you a pattern.
Sure.
And say, go build it. It's one of those we have to just communicate, hey, we need you to go in and get this because you've got to go into the controller and read the controller's data.
I see.
In order to get it, like you did with the wireless access points.
Okay.
It's same concept, different kind of controller.
Sure.
But there's no way to give you a pattern because we do that all the time. We get new things and we don't have a pattern for it. We send it to y'all and get those all the time. But stuff like this, my only way to deal with it is to talk to someone like you.
Sure. Yeah, we'll follow up on that.
Okay.
And your IP phones are weird because you plug them in and they probably use DHCP and they get different IP every time, right?
That's true. They're DHCP. We do want to know the most recent IP address we pulled at. The soft phones are real tricky because depending on whether, if you log in the VPN today, you log in the VPN tomorrow, you get a new IP just constantly for that. Usually the other phones, even though they're DHCP, they generally have the same IP for a long period of time before it swaps out on it. But we want to be able to retrieve serial numbers and MAC address. I can't get it all with the tipple. I'm able to get the phone, the MAC address, and the IP address, and nothing else from it today. And the ATAs, there's not much to them to answer other than this ATA is here, identifying as an ATA.
Okay.
And that kind of thing. But yeah, that is an area that if you knock that out, I get rid of all my custom tipple. And I would just love that.
That sounds good. Yeah. Okay. I'll follow up with you.
Do we have any questions? I'm going to alternate back in the room and Zoom. Do we have any questions on Zoom? Julie, see that you're on. Caddy, I see that you're on. Do y'all have any questions or things you want to talk to Greg about?
No, I don't have any questions. Thanks for asking.
Yes, ma'am. Questions in the room? Now we have one of my colleagues over here who's very knowledgeable in this area.
Well, I do got a question on that Streamweaver product. Is that something that integrates directly with BMC Discovery? Does it go to the AIOp? Because you had kind of a logical slide there where you had a dynamic service model and everything was pointing there. I'm just wondering physically how are those things connected? Like when that, like this here.
Yeah, so Streamweaver is the intelligent integration. We've gone back and forth on the slide. I think it's a good slide when you're talking to people that don't know Discovery. But so for you as someone who knows Discovery, just ignore this. Just that goes in there.
Okay.
So I was pointing on the screen here in the room. It's what dynamic service model kind of goes from, yes, it's a real thing, but it gets heavily used in the marketing team side. But when we're talking about how does everything work in this Helios platform, in the end, it's just Discovery is your data store, and Streamweaver is part of the platform. You'll be able to go in there. I think that was one of the pictures I had in here. Yeah, so it's at the bottom there. It's part of the platform. You're going to configure your configurations, and all the data that it's going and grabbing from these integrations, it's putting in your Discovery data store.
Very good. Thank you.
I have a question. We have a somewhat immature.
Can you come up here to the microphone? Sorry. We have another question in the room. By the way, that was Chris Pagels, for those of you on the phone, one of my colleagues with Gunnison. Again, very knowledgeable. So please let us know who you are and if you can tell us what your company you're with.
Tim Humes, I'm with MDA. We have a somewhat immature deployment of Discovery, And one of the problems that we have is obviously for Discovery to work, you have to know your IP addresses on your
Yeah.
network. Well, as stuff gets deployed and our network team isn't necessarily the most organized with their IP space or communicating that with us.
Yep.
Is there any way for Discovery to go out there and discover your IP ranges on your network? So you don't have to rely on the manual communication to yourself of IP range and space used?
There's a couple customers that come to mind that there's one, I would say they're a very advanced user of Discovery, and they're a hospital system, but they're always adding new hospitals. So they're running to that issue where they have to constantly update the IP addresses. And I think probably they're always willing to share. They spoke with me at one stage at Exchange. They've kind of shared their story in general, but I think they do something where they go out and kind of scan everything, and then it pulls back all the live IP addresses, and then that's what excuse me, gets added to Discovery. How they do that, I'd have to follow up with them, but I think there's a couple customers that are doing what you're talking about similarly, or what you're asking.
So at NASA, we also initially rolled this out, wanting to do full scans within an IP segment. And we found real quick that you have to be careful with that, because some of the segments are so big that the run on the appliance may run for 3 or 4 days. And so you got to watch some of that. So yeah, we have gone back more to a model of they are required to add the IPs into our Discovery for it. Partly because we're a networking contract and we only want to know the network devices. We don't want to know every PC. Some places like you might want to know every PC or everything that connects to your network. There has been talk that we may be asked to expand that to do full range of everything, which point I'm going to be coming to Greg over here trying to find a better model than we're doing with our 17 appliances that we have across NASA today to do it. But yeah, part of it also is to identify the network you want to hit, and then stay in the small ranges of those networks with your jobs. You can go with some of them and do just full scan of everything out there, but not everything's going to respond to you if you don't have the ACLs to get to it.
Yeah.
They won't respond to you, but you'll be surprised at how many printers will respond to you, because public is a perfectly valid ACL for printers. So
another, I think the customer I was mentioning, after they get all the IPs back from their separate process, they're making a REST API called a Discovery to do an ad hoc scan, because that's the only REST API option we have. But we're prioritizing to add the ability over the REST API to also do scheduled scans. So you could have a certain scheduled scan if there was a valid source of data with IP ranges out there in your environment. You'll have the ability to do that API-driven discovery, but as a scheduled run. So maybe you only have to go and update that scheduled run, once a week or once a month, however often they're adding new IP ranges. But that'll be an option that hopefully in the first quarter or second quarter next year, we're starting to add more of those REST API endpoints, and scheduled scans is a pretty common getting asked for.
Would you maybe be able to connect Tim with your customer that has this? That'd be great.
Yeah,
I will definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, last call, Julie. I'm gonna let you and Caddy, in case something came up on if you'd like, you can unmute your microphone while I tell a funny little story. And that is that at Los Alamos National Laboratories, they have it's kind of I'll call it a higher level education type of environment where everybody brings their own. You can't tell a scientist that they don't know. They can't bring their Mac, or they can't run Linux or whatever. So there's not a lot of control, basically my point. And they have some probably Windows 3.1 machines, I don't know, under somebody's desk that's connected to a satellite that's doing something out there in space and sending information back. The problem is, if you scan those, sometimes they go down. And if they go down, you lose communication with the satellite. You just lost millions of dollars in the investment of that satellite. So they told us, you cannot scan these IPs, and here's why. And we'll admit, okay, I get it. So
we work with a lot of energy companies the same way, where we're doing full discovery of their IT systems, but everything is running the power plants or utility wise, like completely off hands. Same with pharmaceutical companies. Like,
Well, there could be some liabilities, you know, if there's a
Yeah.
power outage.
well, I think a lot of the power, those industrial equipment, like I think you void your warranty if you do something like Discovery against it as
Right.
well. So
That would make
kind of
sense.
need the power running. Yeah.
Correct. Any further questions in the room? No? Caddy, Julie, this is your last call. If I don't need anything from you, I'll assume you don't have any questions.
Oh, no questions from me. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it. What a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.